There is a quiet, crushing exhaustion that comes when you set an alarm for an ungodly hour, promising yourself that tomorrow will finally be the day you transform into a machine of discipline. You know exactly what I mean, don't you? You map out the perfect, punishing routine, the freezing water, the hours of reading, the immediate intense labor only to wake up to the harsh ringing in the dark, silence it in a panic, and pull the covers back over your head. And as you lie there, the heavy, suffocating weight of regret settles on your chest before the sun has even risen. You feel as though you have already lost the day. For Elias, this heavy guilt was a daily companion. He stood alone in the center of an expansive, drafty architectural studio, the tall glass windows offering nothing but the cold, indifferent blue of a pre-dawn city. The air in the room was biting, matching the sharp, unrelenting criticism echoing in his own mind. Spread across his massive drafting table was an impossibly complex scale model of a skyscraper, a physical manifestation of the towering, intricate morning routine he believed he was supposed to endure. Every single morning, Elias tried to assemble the entire structure in the dark. He demanded perfection from himself the second his eyes opened. He wanted to place the pillars of deep work, the crossbeams of intense physical training, and the glass panes of mental clarity all at once, rushing with freezing, trembling hands. And every morning, under the immense pressure of his own rigid expectations, the fragile glue would fail. The structure would snap. I watch him as he stares down at the scattered, broken pieces of balsa wood and styrene, his shoulders slumped under an invisible, agonizing weight. He is entirely consumed by the shame of not being enough, of failing to match the digital phantoms he sees online who supposedly conquer the world while he is still fighting to open his eyes. The friction inside him is not just physical fatigue. It is a profound psychological paralysis. The sheer volume of what he feels he must do creates a wall of resistance so high, so impossibly vertical, that his mind begs him to retreat. He looks toward the heavy velvet couch in the corner of the studio. It represents the easy path, the warm, mindless surrender. He thinks to himself that if he cannot build the whole tower before sunrise, he might as well build nothing at all. He takes a slow, defeated step toward the couch. But as he turns his back on the drafting table, the quiet hollow of the studio seems to ask a heavy question. How long can a man endure the pain of a crumbling foundation before the entire architecture of his life caves in? He sinks into the heavy velvet of the couch, and for a fleeting second, there is a hollow relief. The biting cold of the studio seems to recede as he pulls a thick blanket over his shoulders, hiding from the drafts and the sharp edges of his broken architectural model. In the dim, pre-dawn shadows, he reaches for the most potent modern anesthetic available, his phone. The harsh blue light bathes his face as he begins to scroll. He watches digital strangers sprinting through dark streets, diving into freezing baths, and shouting into their cameras about conquering the dawn. I see the exact moment his heart sinks further into his chest. Every flawless morning routine he witnesses on that screen acts as a hammer, striking the already fractured foundation of his self-worth. He is not resting on this couch. He is hiding. Let me tell you exactly what Elias is enduring in this silence. He is trapped in the paralyzing paradox of guilty comfort. He believes that because he failed the grueling, monumental test of his 4 a.m. alarm, the entire day is contaminated. He thinks that discipline must be a severe, punishing shock to the system, and because he could not stomach that punishment today, he sentences himself to the psychological prison of total inaction. He is physically still, yet his mind is sprinting on a treadmill of relentless self-criticism. He is experiencing the exhaustion that comes from resting without actually recovering. The studio around him quietly reflects this internal devastation. As the early morning light slowly bleeds through the tall glass windows, it reveals that the room is a graveyard of aborted ambitions. On every drafting table sits a half-finished structure. There are miniature suspension bridges without support cables and intricate residential complexes lacking roofs. They were all abandoned the moment the construction became too difficult, or the moment Elias realized they wouldn't be perfect on the first attempt. The sunlight, creeping across the floor, does not feel like a new beginning to him. It feels like an accuser. The city outside begins to hum with life. The distant roar of traffic and the steady rhythm of footsteps on the pavement below seep through the glass. The world is moving forward, building its day, while Elias remains paralyzed in the dust of his own rigid expectations. The heavy friction he feels is the agonizing gap between the man he knows he is capable of being and the man currently curled up under a blanket, watching the morning slip away. He closes his eyes, trying to block out the light and the noise, desperately wishing to sink deeper into the numbness. But the comfort of the couch has turned suffocating. The pain of remaining exactly as he is has slowly begun to outweigh the fear of trying again. The heavy question lingers in the drafty air. How does a man rebuild when he has convinced himself that anything less than a skyscraper is a failure? The silence of the studio is suddenly shattered by a sharp, brittle crack. A sudden draft from the overhead vents sweeps through the room, catching the fragile, top-heavy skyscraper model Elias had abandoned on the center table. Because its foundation was rushed and weak, the structure simply cannot hold its own weight against the invisible pressure. It collapses inward, sending pieces of shattered balsa wood cascading across the floor. Elias flinches. The screen of his phone dims. He sits up, the heavy blanket pooling around his waist, and stares at the ruins. I want you to see the exact moment the illusion breaks for him. Looking at the splintered mess, Elias finally understands the agonizing truth. He has been building his life exactly like that model. He has been demanding a towering, spectacular skyline without ever taking the time to pour the concrete. He has been demanding a towering, spectacular skyline without ever taking the time to pour the concrete. His punishing 4 a.m. alarms and extreme 10-step routines were not acts of discipline. They were acts of ego. They were top-heavy, brittle expectations designed to look impressive, but built to inevitably crash. The real test of discipline is not the screaming alarm in the freezing dark. The real test is what he chooses to do right now. In the messy, disappointing aftermath of failure, he stands up. The biting chill of the studio instantly assaults him, and his mind screams at him to dive back under the velvet blanket. The gravity of the couch is immense. The psychological resistance is a physical pressure on his chest, begging him to accept that today is ruined, to leave the mess for tomorrow, to wait for a perfect morning to start over. But he doesn't retreat. Slowly, deliberately, he walks over to the drafting table. He doesn't try to frantically rebuild the skyscraper. Instead, he reaches underneath the table and pulls out a single, solid block of raw drafting plaster. It is heavy. It is unglamorous. It is profoundly basic. He places it squarely in the center of the table. This is his emotional peak. The spectacular triumph is not a montage of hyperproductivity. It is the agonizing, quiet friction of choosing not to quit when the grandiose plan falls apart. Elias takes a deep breath, letting the cold air fill his lungs. He sweeps the shattered pieces of his impossible expectations into the trash. He focuses his entire being on nothing but that single, heavy block. He squares its edges. He secures it to the desk. He makes sure that this one, foundational piece, is perfectly, undeniably stable. He is no longer trying to conquer the dawn. He is simply refusing to surrender the morning. And as he sets his tools down, looking at that one solid block, a profound, quiet strength settles over the studio. The panicked anxiety of perfection is gone, replaced by the sturdy, unshakable weight of reality. That single block of plaster on Elias's table might not look like much. It is entirely unglamorous. It won't get thousands of likes on a timeline, and it certainly won't win any awards for extreme endurance. But it is solid. It is real. It is a promise kept. Listen to me closely now. You have spent so much of your life believing that discipline means declaring a brutal war on yourself. You have been sold the illusion that if you aren't waking up in the freezing dark to train, meditate, and outwork the rest of the world before the sun comes up, you are already failing. But you are not failing. You are simply exhausted from trying to build a towering skyscraper on a fragile foundation of guilt and sleep deprivation. True discipline is not an extreme, punishing shock to your system. It is the quiet, undeniable mastery of a single, realistic anchor. It is choosing the one small, unshakable action, whether that is drinking a glass of water, making your bed, or simply standing by the window for 5 minutes without seeking the numbing comfort of your phone, and making it unbreakable. You do not need to construct a complex, fragile morning routine that shatters the moment life gets difficult, or you feel tired. You just need to lay one solid block that you can actually trust. You do not have to conquer the dawn, my friend. You just have to conquer the urge to hide. If you felt the heavy weight of your own unrealistic expectations in Elias's crumbling skyscraper today, then you are not alone, and you belong here. Subscribe to keep building a sustainable, unbreakable foundation with us. And before you leave, drop a comment below and tell me, what is the one punishing, impossible expectation you are choosing to sweep off your drafting table today? Leave it behind. We will start building the real foundation tomorrow.